I know you all think you know Valerie, but I'm going to tell you some things about Valerie that you might not know so that you'll know her even better. Valerie is a speaker, a leadership coach, a podcaster, and a visionary connector. And if you've never seen her podcasts, I encourage you to go to www.valeriehope.com. I've seen one that she calls Not Quite Strangers, and it's really wonderful to see. She connects two people who've never met and gets them to start talking and seeing how much they have in common. And it's amazing how much we all have in common. Valerie has 20 years in nonprofit and corporate organizations, and she supports leaders worldwide. And I'm saying worldwide because Valerie has lived with more than 400 host families throughout North America, South America, Europe, and traveled more than 30 countries. Valerie is a native Spanish speaker. So everything you hear today, she can do it in Spanish, which is pretty amazing. I think it really is. Her company is called Connect to Joy, and you're going to know why she picked that name, because we're going to connect to joy right now as she speaks. Have you ever known somebody who's done a TED Talk? Well, you know somebody now. Valerie has done a TED Talk. So I'd like to introduce you to Valerie Hope. She is the Vice President of Unity on Greenville Board, but she is so much more than that. So welcome, Valerie.
There is so much more than that. That was great, thank you. Oh, hello everyone. Hello. Just taking it in. I'm so glad to see so many wonderful, friendly faces. You know, it's so funny I don't know what exactly inspired me to say yes to speaking today. It's not something I typically do. You all have heard me be a celebration assistant, and obviously when we have our community meetings, I might make some announcements. But at the end of every year, I use a process called Year Compass. If you've ever seen it, it's basically a workbook that has you reflect over the past year and also identify and envision the future. So I've done it for the last 3 or 4 years. I did it this past December, and as I was going through it, one of the things that I envisioned in the future was to bring more of my spirit into my work and bring some of my work into my spiritual life. And today, you're seeing a manifestation of me bringing my work into my spiritual life. I'm not a licensed Unity teacher. I am not a minister. I do nothing other than serve here in ways that are practical. And so I thought today I would bring to you one of the things that I use as a tool to support my clients in continuing to reflect and build and expand and growing within themselves. But a tiny twist is focusing it more on our spiritual evolution and how we've grown. There's something really special about not only reflection, our self-reflection, but also having a witness to our reflection. So today, you're not going to get me talking about spirituality to you. You're actually going to be, like I do with my clients, you're going to have an opportunity to speak to each other. So you will be focusing on several exercises that I've brought today that you not only self-reflect, but also share with one another so you can be witness for each other on how much you have grown over the past year. I will model exactly what you're going to do so you don't have to worry about not feeling sure or certain about what to share or how much to share. But you will be working with a partner. So if you don't like the person sitting next to you, this is a good time to change seats. Or if you find yourself sitting in an island, look across the room and see someone that you might want to sit next to, perhaps someone that you haven't had a chance to connect with in a while, or someone that you find that you like to get to know better. So take a look around right now. I give you permission to look. Be weird. Be weird. All right. And I'll tell you exactly when that's going to happen. In a book written by Reverend Ellen Davenport, she's a Unity minister, her book called The Five Principles, one of the things she says that at her church, she begins every Sunday service by saying, we honor the many names for God and the many paths for God. God is all that is, the ultimate reality, and the presence that human beings have sensed within and around them for millennia. My invitation is that throughout our time together today, that you bring that same focus and that same intention to the word spirituality. Spirituality is not what we do, it's how we do it. That we infuse our lives, our actions, our behaviors, our communication with what Spirit guides us to do. And so that anything that we focus on, any reflection that you have, anything that you share, you do so knowing that there's Spirit coming through and how you're doing it. Agree? Can we bring that intention in today?
Yes. Yeah.
Love it. Excellent. So, interestingly enough, this first exercise will begin with focusing on the past, specifically 10 years ago in the past. So if you can remember 2015, here are a few elements from 2015, just to jog your memory a bit. But we're not going to talk about current events or popular culture, really thinking about who you were 10 years ago, how your life was 10 years ago. Specifically, one, what were you grateful for then? And what were some of the most impactful lessons you had 10 years ago? I'll share mine. So 10 years ago, 2015, I hadn't gone to church in about 8 years. I'd kind of been disillusioned by it. I'd been a regular church attendee for many, many years, and I just stopped because I just couldn't find a place where I fit in. And so talking to my mom one day, she said, you should really go back to church because, it's a great way to, meet some bachelors. It'll be a good opportunity. I'm like, Mom, I'm so over church. You don't get it. And she's like, well, I think it might be something interesting to at least explore. It's been several years since you haven't gone. And at the time, I loved the corporate job that I had, but my life was 70% travel. So I wasn't in Dallas very often. And I knew that I had about 2 months stint where I wasn't going to be traveling. And I wasn't looking forward to it because I didn't have enough community around me at the time. So I'm like, what am I going to do for 2 months? So of course I didn't tell my mom this when I'm on the phone with her, but I'm like, maybe church is the answer. So literally hung up the phone. This was a Saturday evening. And when I hung up the phone with my mom, I got on Google and I said, okay, if there's a church that I could go to where I feel some level of inspiration to attend, which one would it be? And I remembered seeing this little church as I was driving up and down Greenville Avenue. And the only thing that stood out to me about this church was a marquee. And the marquee would often quote some of my favorite authors. Oprah Winfrey, Rumi, you'd have Wayne Dyer, and I'm like, what Christian church would ever quote these people? In some circles, they're known as heretics. So I was like, what a revolutionary church to have such quote, those types of quotes. So I didn't even know the name of the church. I just went to Google Maps, and I'm like, okay, is this intersection, McComas and Greenville. Oh, Unity Church of Christianity. All right, went to the website. I saw that they had an 11 o'clock service the next day, and I showed up. And I don't know who was at the door at the time. There were some greeters at the door that enveloped me in this huge bear hug, which I'm like, I've never been to a church like that. And then I sat in the pews, and I think I was sitting around here where you are, LD, and I was just sitting by myself waiting and just kind of, okay. I was there maybe 5 minutes before the service began. I had at least 6 people come up and say hello, welcome me. And I'm like, is this a cult? What is this place? And the realization came to me when I looked up. And if you look above my head, over the stained glass windows, you'll see that 4-letter word. And love is what is present here. Which brings me to my biggest impact, or the greatest lesson I learned that year, 10 years ago, was that love is not an event, love is not a relationship, love is not an action, love is how we infuse our actions, is what we infuse our relationships with, is what we infuse when we pick up the phone and have a conversation with someone, even when we're having a conversation that might be difficult. The love is a path of spirit. It's a way for us to express our spirituality. And that was the biggest aha moment. So I was able to tell my mom, like, Mom, I did not find a bachelor at Unity on Greenville, but I discovered what love actually means and how to expand it and express it in ways that fulfill not only me, but everyone around me. So now it's your turn. Think back 10 years ago. What were you thinking of? What were you grateful for? And what were some of the biggest lessons, or what was the biggest lesson you learned? Now, we have a very limited time today, and I know that this is going to stir up some really rich conversations, but you will each have 2 minutes to share with a partner what you're discovering about yourself, reflecting on 10 years ago. So 2 minutes to share. You can share either both what you're grateful for and what the greatest lesson was, but if you know that one of those two is really calling to you, pick that one. And I also encourage you that beyond our time together today, if you want to go to lunch or want to grab a coffee or sit in the sanctuary afterwards to share even more, feel free to do that too. But you'll have 2 minutes, and after those 2 minutes are done, I will ring a little bell, just like this, which means pause. And then your partner will get their 2 minutes, and then I'll click the bells again, and then we'll move on to the next exercise. Clear? Okay, everybody have a partner? Look around, go sit with the person, or lean across, or whatever you need to do. I know some of you are in triads. I promise you won't have enough time if you... All right, hang on, whoa, before you begin, pause. Pause, before you begin. Before you begin. Oh, I lost it already. Oh my God, look at this. I'm gonna have to... Pause. Okay. First of all, those of you who might be watching this on a video afterwards, some of you might watch the replay. If you don't have somebody sitting next to you, just grab a pen and paper and journal some of these reflections. Right? You can just write them down. Those of you who are sitting here who don't feel comfortable for whatever reason sharing any of this with someone else, you don't really feel like talking, you're not feeling well, you can also grab a pad that's here on the pew and journal this for yourselves. Okay? Okay, so you each get 2 minutes. I will start the timer now. What you're grateful for and what your lesson was. Okay.
Lesson learned was 10 years ago. 2015. Think back to 2015. It's kind of hard to read. So much shit. There's pictures. Yeah. You've seen the pictures. We got the pictures up there. Obama was president, White Lives Matter, the Rainbow Movement was the first one. Can't see the first one. Pope's doing something. Anyway, most grateful for.
So that was that it was yeah.
About 30 more seconds for this first person.
So I was very grateful.
Okay, that's 2 minutes. Switch. Let your partner share what they're grateful for and their biggest lesson.
So it happened.
seconds. That's 2 minutes. That's 2 minutes. For some of you, it's just a warm-up.
Yeah.
So just reflect on what you shared with your partner. And in a word or a brief phrase, what would encapsulate that lesson that you learned 10 years ago or that gratitude that you're experiencing? For me, for example, it was spiritual community and redefining love. So let's hear a few people say out loud, what is it that it's family? What else? Synchronicity. What else?
Helping change.
Helping change. What else? Perseverance. Yes. Gratitude. Balance. Couple more. Joy. Spiritual principles work. Yes. Wonderful. Thank you all so much for sharing that with one another. Now, we're not done, right? So part of it is just thinking about how far you've come. Like all the things that we've experienced over the last 10 years ago, it's like a lifetime ago. And our pace is rapidly changing day to day. So we're going to move now from the 10-year period to, let's say, 12 months ago, just in the last 12 months. And you'll probably find some of the similar lessons, perhaps different ones, but here are some highlights from our world over the last 12 months. I'll say that one of the things that I'm most grateful for is in the last 12 months, we've done so much as a board for this church. We've had a lot of transitions. Sandra already mentioned we have two wonderful ministers, Reverend Barbara, who's here with us this morning, and Reverend Doug, who have poured their hearts and souls into making sure that we continue to elevate and expand our community and our impact. We have, I put slides together. We have celebration assistants that support us in making announcements. We have those of you who are on the search committee for a minister and our nomination committee, and we have our prayer teams, and we have so many things going on in this church. You wouldn't know that Reverend Karen Romastan was the last full-time minister that we had that was as invested in this community as the members and volunteers are. So I'm so grateful to be partnered with a team that's super committed. And we have found creative and innovative ways to keep moving forward. My favorite part so far in the last 12 months. One area that's been a lesson, it's an ongoing lesson, I kind of teed up a little bit of our time together today by saying this, is I've always felt that I was a little too spiritual to be corporate and too corporate to be spiritual. And that's kind of inhibited the way that I work. Because I didn't want to feel like I was kind of woo-woo at work, and I don't know, people talking about the wisdom of the heart, and corporate that feels a little bit lightweight. And in a spiritual community, I'm like, I don't want to quote a bunch of scripture and talk about all the things I've learned in the Bible. I want to talk about my life and my experiences and how Spirit has shown up. So over the last month, the lesson I continue to work on, and it continues to come, and this is, again, a manifestation of that is, you know what? Spirit moves through me. I am not Spirit. I am a faucet. As Marianne Williamson loves to say, be the faucet, not the water. And so I am doing the best I can to just stay out of the way and just let Spirit come through me. All right, so those are my big lessons for the last 12 months. Now, your turn. Think about the last 12 months of your life. What are you grateful for? What are you learning? Maybe you already learned it. Maybe you're still learning it. The person that started the exercise with you and your partner, the one that started, you're going to listen first. So you're going to switch roles. Whoever started, you're going to listen first, and your partner is going to start. You get 2 minutes, and I'll ring the bell when 2 minutes are up. Ready? 12 months. Go. 30 more seconds.
And I totally can relate to that. Where you're like, you're trying to pull off that stuff, and this motorcycle it worked out well. I married him. It was only 2 hours. I thought, and at the end of that 2-year period, I didn't check her references. I interviewed them both. I did check them. I was married. And this time was the same. Yes.
All right, switch. Switch. Your partner's turn. About 30 more seconds. That's 2 minutes. Okay. Again, in a word or a phrase, what's come up for you over the last 12 months? For me, for example, was be the faucet, not the water, and have fun and be in gratitude. Let's hear some. Allow, freedom,
Letting go.
letting go, trust, yes. Peace, gratitude.
Just say no.
Just say no, Nancy Reagan. That was not a political statement. Just say no. What else? Social justice. So you can already start to see that so many things have shifted just in the last 12 months. And it's going to continue. Our world is changing. In fact, I was listening to a podcast yesterday that said that we will experience change in just this last few years that hasn't been seen in almost 30 years. Right? The amount of change that we'll see in 3 years is the amount of change that we've experienced over 30 years. It's moving very quickly. I know Ahmed and I talk about this at home all the time. He's always looking out for the AI, artificial intelligence, and all the things that are changing because of it. And for some, it creates a lot of uncertainty in our world. The political climate also creates a lot of uncertainty. You know, my mother had a health scare this week. That created a lot of uncertainty. There's so many things that are completely out of our control. Our focus now in this next exercise, this final exercise, is on the future, which we have no control over and very little ability to predict. Now, we don't necessarily know how and what Spirit needs from us, but there is a place within us that we can tap into. And Charles Fillmore, who's one of the co-founders of Unity, says, we develop the ability to hear the still small voice by turning within in times of silence and prayer. So we're going to create an opportunity for you to turn in to that still small voice. We're actually going to use a technique from the HeartMath Institute. This is an organization that has studied the power of the heart over the last 30 plus years. And the technique that they use, we can tap into our inner wisdom on demand by using the power of the heart. This requires a bit of time of reflection. You're not going to be sharing with your partner this particular exercise, but you're going to take a moment, first of all, just to get in a comfortable position. So however you're sitting, just want to find a place that's comfortable. You can do this with your eyes open or closed, however you feel most comfortable. And just acknowledge any of the emotions or attitudes that have come up in reflecting with your partner over these last few moments. Just acknowledge whatever's come up about it. And similar to our meditation earlier, you're going to begin by focusing your attention in the area of your heart. For some of us, it's helpful to touch the area of our heart to bring even more awareness to it. Imagine your breath flowing in and out of that area. You might notice your breath is a little more slow, perhaps even deeper, but just find a comfortable rhythm. While you continue to focus on this heart breath, bring to mind an experience or an emotion that is positive. It might be, you think about gratitude, appreciation for someone or something in your life. It could be a special someone, it could be a pet. Perhaps you recall a special accomplishment or a special place. Anything that brings a positive emotion to your heart. We'll be here for a few breaths. And now from this more objective place, ask yourself, what do I need to do to evolve spiritually now? What's my next step? And allow whatever insight, awareness, emotion, attitude come to the surface without editing, analyzing. Whatever comes up for you, write it down. When you're ready, write it down. Put pads and paper in front of you. You might want to put it on your phone. Without editing or analyzing, whatever first instinct comes up, write it down. And if you are comfortable, again with a word or a phrase, we're going to say it out loud collectively, whatever came up for you. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Whenever you're ready, open your eyes, refocus. Turn to the person next to you, express whatever gratitude you can for the time that they've spent witnessing you, witnessing your evolution, in your growth. Yes, hugs are appropriate.
I wasn't ready for that.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for engaging. Thank you, Spirit, for allowing us to engage in this moment together in this way. What came up for me was pray. I don't have to figure everything out. And I've been struggling against myself all my life trying to figure it out. Like, I know I could do this. Coming up with an idea, coming up with a path, coming up with an answer. And I realized that I don't have to. I'm not the one. I'm not the one. The prayer that I love the most is the prayer of St. Francis, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. And I want to be an instrument. And sometimes the instrument does not compose the music. The instrument just makes the sound. The instrument just makes the sound. So I've had to remind myself over and over again, I am the instrument. I am not the composer. I am the instrument. I'm not the composer. So whatever it is that you can use to commit to yourself, to remember, to embody whatever it is that you got in this meditation that we did, do so. Whether it's a mantra, whether it's your partner holding you accountable, whether it's writing it down and putting it on your bathroom mirror, whatever it takes, find a way to commit to that. In A Course in Miracles is a beautiful inspired text. In Lesson 71 it says that only God's plan for salvation will work. We are to ask him very specifically, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to whom? He will answer in proportion to our willingness to hear his voice. Our job is to create a willingness within ourselves, a thirst to hear the Spirit. And with that, I leave you to continue to reflect. Thank you.